So, lads, today I watched the second half of this game so that you guys don't have to. I watched the second half of this game, and I watched periods of the what you call it. I watched periods where they played well last season. They played well this season, and I've watched periods when the Fever have lost games. The Fever, I mean this when I say this. The reason why the Fever are 6-6 and not 10-2, and I'm going far enough as to say they would be 10-2 if they stopped playing Kelsey Mitchell point guard. Kelsey Mitchell point guard minutes, like I don't have any stats. I would say on the season, Kelsey Mitchell point guard minutes are some of the worst minutes the Fever have. And being even more exact, Caitlin Clark shooting guard minutes are the Fever do not look like a competent basketball team. And by the way, this is not any sort of a defense of Caitlin Clark. She was garbage last night. She was absolutely garbage last night. But I watched back. I thought there were a couple of really important games last season. I watched back the Mercury game when everyone talks about how great she was in that game. I watched back the Liberty game when she had her triple-double, and I watched back on the Lynx game where she had 10-point fourth quarter and just completely took over the game, and they went from down 7 to winning by 7. I watched those 3 games, and there is a clear difference in Caitlin last year and this year. And I feel like it is very much down to the style of play the team play. Because I've always said this, and you can look back on anything I've said a year ago. Caitlin the player can be stopped. Caitlin the system can't. And right now, there's no Caitlin system. So when Caitlin the player is being stopped and the system isn't there as a bit of a crutch for her individual play, if she doesn't have the system as a bit of a crutch, when Caitlin's playing bad, she's a liability. Like, Caitlin was not a liability at any stage last season after the first maybe 10 games when she figured it out. Caitlin was not a liability. She wasn't. Because even when Caitlin was shooting bad, and those games I talked about, stats, 4 of 14 from the field against the Phoenix Mercury. But 13 assists. 13 assists in those games. And in that game, she had, I think it was 12 assists against the Liberty, but she was 7 of 17. A bit better. Not great percentages. But 4 of 14. She was as bad in that game as she was in this game shooting, but she was able to take over the game in other ways. Then, against the Lynx, she was 4 of 17 or 5 of 17, which was as bad a shooting percentage as she had today. She was 5 of 17. Or is it as bad a percentage as today? Maybe it's not. It's not, but she was 5 of 17. And in the second half, ironically, Caitlin Clark was 2 of 6. She had 9 points in the second half. And if you're looking and saying, oh, she had, it wasn't quite as bad, she was horrendous in the second half. And the whole team was horrendous. And somebody made this point in a comment, and I actually think that it's a legitimate point. Every free agent was brought in to help Stephanie White, not to help Caitlin Clark. And I don't know how true that is, but it seems like obviously the players that were brought in might have been brought in for that coach. And look, we know about the horrendous recruiting the Indiana Fever did. And look, I bought the hype too. I fell for the hype too. I was like, you know what, Colson was great, or Colson could play 5 minutes, but I assumed they were going to go out with 12. If you look at anything, I assumed they were going to have an actual backup point guard and not just Sydney Colson. The team has Sid Colson playing a career high. It's not her fault she plays. It's not her fault she plays. But the Indiana Fever are 1-6 on the year when they slow things down in the second half. The Indiana Fever, this is their biggest loss of the year. So we can explain how these games have gone. And there's a huge difference between the second half Fever this year and the second half Fever last year. Because we're going to talk about the biggest wins they had in the second halves last year. So, last year, second half Fever was when the Fever just put their foot on the gas and nobody could stop them. Caitlin Clark didn't have to have the greatest scoring games in the world because she was able to facilitate. She was running. She was looking left, looking right. Kelsey on her left. Lexi on her right, Aaliyah there on the trail, Caitlin Clark playing forward and Aaliyah trailing on drag screens. We are now watching Caitlin Clark stand in the corner, and when she's off the ball, people are allowed 2 hands on her jersey and she can't do anything about it. She's getting hacked off the ball, but it is what it is. The referees are going to do it. She was being hacked off the ball last year, which is why Christy Sides went away from it. And maybe the logic is, oh, Stephanie White had the blueprint for guarding Caitlin Clark and stopping the fever. I'm sorry. The Connecticut Sun went to 5 games. They went to 5 games with the Minnesota Lynx last year. That was a damn good team. And if Marina Mabrey doesn't get hurt, they probably get to the finals. They might win the championship. They were a damn good team last year. And the Indiana Fever in Game 2 of the playoffs, should have won the game. They lost that game. Caitlin tried to will them to the win. They lost that game because of bad coaching by by Christy Sides and a calamitous playoff meltdown from Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell has a chance to take the lead and just does some weird 360 layup thing instead of shooting the ball. I can't even remember what she did. She just threw the ball to nowhere. It was a meltdown by Kelsey Mitchell why they lost that game. They did not lose that game. Game 2. Game 1, Caitlin missed shots. They did not lose in the playoffs because of being the scouting report. They beat the Connecticut Sun the last time they played in the regular season. They played the Connecticut Sun 3 times in June. Yes, Stephanie White had a scout report. I'm sorry, every scout report on Caitlin Clark is the same. She likes to shoot going left. She likes to drive going right. And sometimes doesn't deal the best with physicality. Everyone knows the scouting report. Every player has a scouting report. The scouting report for all these top players is the same. We all know what the scouting report is. For Paige Bueckers, her scouting report is do not leave her open from 3. Try to funnel her on the inside because she's not great attacking the basket unless it's a mid-range shot. And if she ends up cooking us from the mid-range, we live with it. If you put any pressure on her, she'll give the ball up and go stand in the corner. That is the scout report from Paige Bueckers. The scout report for Arike Ogunbowale is just she guards herself. The scout report for Nafisa Collier is try and not let her touch the ball anywhere around the high post on either elbow because she's going to be able to turn on it, turn and just shoot over you. The scout report for Aja Wilson is you try to force her away from that head down drive on the left hand. If you do, you overplay the left hand ideally because look, if she gets hit on that, she kind of goes to shoot the fadeaway, which is a really low percent, which she's not very good at. Even though it looks pretty, she shoots them at a low percentage. I can list off scouting reports on everybody. Everybody has a scouting report. Everybody has things that that people know they want to do. But when it comes to the Indiana Fever, the scout report is, we want the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands. That is their game plan, is get the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands. And the coaches take the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands. I'm sorry. Caitlin Clark, in the first half, you say what you want about the first half from Caitlin. Carla Lake burned her twice. That is a fact. Carla burned her twice. Carla burned Kelsey Mitchell and Natasha Howard for the other 2 buckets. She burned Caitlin twice. Caitlin respected an 11% 3-point shooter too much. Bad scouting report by Caitlin. Caitlin did a really good job guarding Steph Talbot when she was in. But Caitlin shot the ball terribly in the first half. She still dominated every aspect of that game with her facilitating. She dominated with her facilitating. They were sending doubles at her. She was able to facilitate. They were overly guarding Aaliyah Boston. They were giving up open layups. The gravity was there. Everything was there. They were playing well. She was playing well. And just because she shot the ball badly, they tried to force. And this is one thing that Christy Sides did not do, is that when Caitlin Clark shot the ball badly, or she turned the ball over a little bit, they didn't go away from her. They didn't start trying to force off the ball stuff for her to get into shooting rhythm. Give Caitlin the ball in her hand. They let her get into rhythm. Because if you look last year at all of the biggest wins from the Fever, they were all second half second half masterclasses. They were second half masterclasses because Caitlin pushed the tempo. Caitlin is a notoriously bad starter. She is a notoriously bad starter. And the problem is that now she starts off badly and the Indiana Fever go away from her, means that she doesn't get into her rhythm. And sometimes she can have a bad 3 quarters and take over in the fourth. This year she can't. Because you lost the game yesterday and you knew she wasn't taking over. You knew she wasn't taking over against New York. Look at these games. Look at the games the Fever have played on the year. On the year in the Sky, they just killed them. The Atlanta Dream, this game right here. Caitlin Clark did not touch the ball in the third quarter, and they lost that game because of it. In this game right here, they won in a grinded out game because Natasha Howard was otherworldly in that game. In this game right here, Caitlin Clark was basically frozen out of the game for a half, and then she went on a one-woman tear in the third quarter, and then in the fourth quarter when they got a 12-point lead, they stopped running and took the ball out of her hands. In this game right here in the loss, they started walking through Kelsey Mitchell. Sid Colson's minutes were horrendous. In this game here, it is what it is. It is what it is. They got Ari McDonald in who pushed the tempo in these games. In this game here, Ari McDonald was nearly a plus. It was the Sid Colson walk it down point guard minutes. In this game right here, Caitlin Clark had 25 in the first half, and because she started off the game well, they trusted her with the ball in her hands late in the game. And what do we know? Caitlin Clark has, what did she have in that game? 25 and 9 or something? Or did she have 10 assists in the end? No, she had 32 and 9. She had 32, 9 and 8. And they took the ball, but they let the ball stay in her hands because she was good at the start. She started off well in this game. They kept the ball in her hands. And that's the thing. That's the thing. When Caitlin Clark starts off badly, the Indiana Fever take the ball out of her hands. And this offense that the Indiana Fever play is horrendous. This motion offense is horrendous. They need to get out of it. They need to get out of it. It is horrendous. This is a badly coached team. And I'm not saying their coaches are bad. I'm saying their coaches are coaching this team like they're the Connecticut Sun. They're not. They have Caitlin effing Clark on their team. They have Kelsey Mitchell. By the way, Kelsey Mitchell has regressed because Kelsey Mitchell is one of the best shooting guards in the WNBA. Kelsey Mitchell is the worst point guard in the WNBA. Sorry, second worst. Sydney Colson's the worst point guard in the WNBA. Kelsey Mitchell is the second worst point guard. Kelsey Mitchell is so much of a negative at the 1 and so much of a positive at the 2, and they're staggering her minutes 50-50 there. And do you want to know what the scariest thing about this is that last season, Caitlin Clark shot the ball badly and the Fever could still win because Caitlin Clark was pushing the tempo. She was making big plays down the stretch. The ball was in her hand. She was making good reads. And Caitlin Clark's somebody who, when she doesn't touch the ball, starts forcing. And yes, there is a flaw in Caitlin Clark. But I'm sorry. It is the job of a coach to play to your team. Not to try force Caitlin Clark into being Alyssa Thomas. Not to try force Caitlin Clark into being Steph Curry. She's Caitlin effing Clark. There is not one player in the sport of basketball that can dominate a game and just turn a game on its head like Caitlin Clark can in every aspect. Caitlin Clark can go. We saw it last year. Again, that Mercury game everyone talks so much about. She was 4 of 14. But they went down 15 points and Caitlin just started running. She was hitting Kelsey Mitchell. She was hitting Aaliyah on the trails. She was hitting Lexi Hull. She was hitting Katie Lou, who ran hard. She was hitting Christy Wallace, who ran hard. When Temi came in, Temi was running hard. The team doesn't try anymore. And I mean this when I say this. This is a team that thrives in chaos. They thrive when they're running up and down. They're not talented enough to win in a slow down game. They're not tough enough to win in a slow down game. They're not good enough to win in that style of game. What they are is they're a team that makes very good reads off the read and react, and they run the floor well. They got beat. The Valkyries played the exact way that the Fever did. The Valkyries were aggressive. And the problem is let's look at their schedule again. How many times have the Fever been aggressive in the second halves of games? How many times have the Fever been aggressive? If the Fever were aggressive in the third quarter, they win this game. The Fever were passive in this game. The Fever tried to dribble out this game in the fourth quarter and they lost to the Liberty. If the Fever did not try to dribble out the clock in this game and they stayed aggressive, they went on a huge run and they blew it. They nearly blew this game here because they stayed aggressive, they were up 17 points, and then they went passive. This is a team who tactically are a passive team. They are soft. Everyone knows they're soft. And they are allowing other teams to impose themselves on them. The Indiana Fever last season, for as soft as they were, they imposed their game style on other teams with Caitlin Clark. And even when Caitlin played badly, they still imposed a run and gun style which allowed Kelsey Mitchell to thrive, which allowed Lexi to thrive, which allowed Kelsey Mitchell to thrive. They are playing a system right now that suits nobody. Because Caitlin Clark is not a good point guard in this system, people aren't getting the looks that they want in this system. They're not getting the looks they want. They're not getting the looks that Alyssa Thomas would have given them. So everyone's struggling because in this system, Caitlin Clark's not very good. I mean this when I say this. If Aria McDonald was on this team, if the Fever want to play this way, Aria McDonald, if she comes back, should be their starting point guard. But like even in this system, Caitlin Clark's not as bad as Sid Colson or Kelsey Mitchell. And the thing is this front office does not trust Caitlin Clark. They do not trust Caitlin Clark. They can trust Caitlin Clark to talk when things are going well, but you can tell late in games who they trust. And late in close games, the whole thing is we're going to take the ball out of Caitlin's hands. They trust Kelsey Mitchell point guard. They trust Sydney Colson at point guard. They do not trust Caitlin Clark. And it's fine to not trust a player, by the way. They don't have to trust Caitlin Clark. That is fine. That is fine. But I'm watching these games. I watched back. You can see Christy Sides had more trust in Caitlin Clark than Stephanie White does. And there are times, and it's, by the way, it is becoming increasingly less frequent that Caitlin Clark says, fuck the game plan, I'm taking over. She did that plenty of times last year. And I mean this. It is better to have Caitlin Clark sitting on the bench than have her on shooting guard. Because teams don't like, she doesn't have gravity as shooting guard anymore. Because teams just put two hands on her jersey and they know nothing good's going to happen. Teams want Caitlin off the ball. Teams are not going to double team Caitlin off the ball. Nobody has this year because they know Caitlin off the ball makes the Fever significantly worse than Caitlin on the ball. So if Caitlin's off the ball, they've won. They've won. So Caitlin having success off the ball helps the team because Caitlin being off the ball means you're going to win 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10, you're going to win if Caitlin Clark is off the ball. So we got to be honest on that. Like when Caitlin touches the ball less and she's off the ball, she becomes less energized. She plays worse defense. She becomes a liability on both offense and defense. She starts shooting dumb shots. And that is a flaw in Caitlin Clark. I understand it. But any coach and any system that is playing, that instead of playing to the strengths of their best players, is playing to the weakness of their best players is a bad system. And look, I'm going to give Stephanie White and this crew till the end of the year because it's clear Kelly Krauskop and Amber Cox did a horrible job recruiting. They did a horrible job recruiting. I understand that. But this system has not worked. And the worst part about this is that outside, the only games, and I mean this, the only games the Indiana Fever have been fun to watch this year were the Chicago Sky where they blitzed them early and the New York Liberty when they won because Caitlin Clark just went nuclear in the first half. The Fever were fun to watch last year in games when Caitlin Clark shot 4 of 14 because Caitlin Clark was allowed to take over. She was allowed to take over. Caitlin Clark is not allowed to take over now if she misses 2 shots. If she misses a couple of shots, the goal of, or the Fever, tactically, take the ball out of her hands. And it's not the first time, it's not the last time we'll see this. The Indiana Fever slowing the game down is the reason that they are not either 9-2 or 10-3 right now. Coaching, game plan, tactics is huge. Because when this team is playing slow, ironically, they feed off the energy of Caitlin Clark. And as a coach, you are essentially forcing Caitlin Clark away from what energizes her. You're forcing the crowd out of games. Like, the Indiana Fever coaching staff are tactically forcing the crowd out of games. Like, Caitlin Clark in the New York Liberty game took over in spite of what the coaches were doing. Not because of it. Tactically, they want to turn this team into a gritty, slow-down team because they think that's what's going to have success in the playoffs. That is a fact. They don't give a damn about the future of this league. They don't give a damn about the best player on their team having success, and it's not going to work. They do not have the personnel to play this. And I not only watched back the second half of this game, I watched back the third quarter of the Dream game. I watched back the fourth quarter of the Liberty game. They lost all 3 games in the exact same way. And yes, there is fault on the players. I understand that. There is fault on the players. Caitlin Clark was garbage yesterday. Kelsey Mitchell was garbage yesterday. Aaliyah Boston looked like she didn't want to be there in the second half. Every single player is at fault yesterday. except for maybe Sophie was okay, but like that's a maybe. Every player was at fault. But I'm sorry. When you lose, when you blow major leads, when you blow huge leads and games you are in control of. And by the way, the Indiana Fever last year, how many games were Indiana fully in control of that they lost last year? 2? They've already lost 3 this year. They've already lost 3 games that they were in complete control of. Caitlin Clark has been a net negative. She was a net negative to her team on this year. And by net negative, I mean it is better off for her sitting. If she was sitting on the bench at the end of the bench, they would have been better off without her. They would have been better off without her in this game. They would have been better off without her in this game. And they would have been better off without her in, I don't know. I'll give her 2. I'll give her 2 games. And in the fourth quarter of this game, they would have been better off without her. And do you want to know what the scariest thing is? Is that for as good as Caitlin Clark has been, the way they currently want to play, they would have a better record with Erica Wheeler playing point guard. They would. We said this last year when Christy Sides kept talking about paint touch and started force-feeding Aaliyah Boston. And it's like, if that's the way you want to play, if that's the way you want to play, go and just play Erica Wheeler all those minutes. And if this is the way you want to play, just trade her. Like, you're obviously not going to do that. You're not going to get away with that because you're not going to be the GM who traded Caitlin Clark. But, like, if we're talking purely basketball, the way the Indiana Fever are playing right now, the way they are trying to play and the way they're playing down the stretch, it would be more beneficial. And by the way, not with a point guard and Caitlin Clark at the 2. It would be more beneficial Caitlin Clark sitting on the end of the bench. So anyway, yeah, that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.